Voilà. Donc, bonsoir à tous. Nous allons parler, encore une fois encore, des enfants dans les mines du minerai, ainsi que les femmes violentées sexuellement qui travaillent dans les mines pour nos smartphones et pour toutes les technologies, donc en RDC. Oui. Le Tchè africain parlera toujours de la RDC. Je suis né au Congo-Brazzaville, mais tout le temps, il y a des gens qui veulent me mettre toujours né au Congo, RDC. Donc ça, ce sont des gens des milieux de Sassou qui font toute cette comédie, mais ils perdent leur temps. Alors, le Tchè africain qui est né au Congo-Brazzaville parlera toujours des enfants esclaves en RDC. Parce que c'est des sujets très très importants à se lever tout le temps. Jusqu'à ce que cette dictature prendra fin. Mais tant que cette dictature sera là, j'en parlerai toujours. Donc nous allons passer. J'ai mal aux yeux avec trop les lunettes, ça fait après mal. Donc je vais mettre... Nous allons suivre. Que Dieu, le Tout-Puissant qui a créé le ciel et la terre, nous aide pour ce direct. Que l'ennemi n'ait aucun contrôle dans tout ce que nous faisons. Voilà. Voilà. Attendez un instant. Voilà.
Hata mara 5 sio ukienda tu twala chakula kule ni tu bakupita. Ukitika tu kwenda kule manake unajitolea tu basi.
Maana kanya wale wenye wanaweza
hata mara 5 sio ukienda tu twala chakula kule ni sherti tu bakupita. Ukitika tu kwenda kule manake unajitolea tu basi.
maana kanya wale wenye wanaweza kutumika oro. Kani mwenzi nangu wa kutumika oro.
Kamituga Gold Mine in South Kivu province of eastern Congo. One of hundreds of such mines dotted across the mineral-rich jungle of this remote region. 98% of these mines are brutally controlled by rebel militias, relying on a system of forced labor that amounts to modern slavery. There's much at stake for the rebels. It's not just gold in the jungle, but cassiterite and coltan, rare earth minerals vital to the functioning of our computers and mobile phones. Congo's combined mineral rights have an estimated value of 15 trillion pounds.
Yenye ilikuwa swali yetu sawa vile bakrezeri wenye tuko chini kumakarieze chini ya barabara ni selo ile yenye ulisema kusema kama bakrezeri bako deminize sababu banatumika na haba profite ni kuona benye bakamata charge ya ile makariere ni maendeleo proprietaire zao banajitumikia
haitumiki kwenye chini.
bazazi wa reforma
hakuna order kusikia wakapiga watu kinyama.
Much of the workforce is made up of women. These women have fled their villages due to a campaign of murder and sexual violence that has made their traditional way of life impossible and compelled them into the back-breaking labour of the mines to survive. Even here, they are preyed upon by their captor employers, beaten and paid a wage on which they can barely subsist.
Nikwenda tafuta chakula kule kupori juu watoto bakule mpaka kukala wale majambazi na bakamuua kule. Maisha yangu ya mbele ya vita kwa tofauti juu tulikuwa tunalima ile mashamba tunaleta ile miogo na ile sombe tunakula. Lakini tangu vile bautu balingia mpori hatupate tena kitu ya kwenda kushamba ya kuleta ile sombe na njoo tunakamatisha tu kazi ya kutwanga maiwa.
In a cruel twist, the rebels' new practice of kidnapping women, then ransoming them back to their villages, makes the women complicit in funding the militias that persecute them, and places them in debt to their neighbours, who shun them for having been raped, referring to them as Hutu wives. The debt forces them off the land and into the mines to repay their neighbors.
Wakatoka Butezi kubashimwenda kumafuta wakaenda Langula mafuta na wakatubeba mpori tulenda mpori na wakatunyanganya mafuta zote kutoka nazi. Mimi na kupiga vilikuwa hivyo mandizi tu na ndio wanatupatia kipindi. Nakwenda shota tu maji. Na kwenda shota maji tunaenda nao. Mafuta kali. Wakatulomba mimi $1 ndio tutoshe mbele kutoka kupori. Wakanitumaka mie peke. Wenzangu wakawakia hii. Ndio lomba mafuta. Nikafiaka lomba mafuta. Kwenda na lomba mafuta, si wote nindukiaka navo na tukaenda na lomba na mafuta shefa akaenda na kombolaka mafuta mwingine hivi tu watu watoke nini mpuri na mpaka hivi tunaenda kalana madeni zimoja na tuamaliza pale mpaka kutosha.
The US Securities and Exchange Commission is due to announce new rules to clean up extraction and processing of conflict minerals in eastern Congo. Many US corporates want these new rules diluted. In the meantime, Congo's unregulated gold and mineral rush, fueled by our insatiable hunger for state-of-the-art appliances and cheap jewelry, perpetuates and fuels a savage conflict, a system of slave labor and the continuing suffering of ordinary Congolese men, women and children.
Falormi akisha royana bansigeraga ngahigwa senti okwibere yo bansigeraga ikolirwa yakisha. Ahora ni kumi banda isize yaga. Ariko yabalala.
Voilà. Donc nous avons suivi la RDC. La RDC, des femmes qui souffrent immensement travaillent dans les champs des minerais. Et ainsi que des enfants. Des enfants sont exploités. Exploités. Oui. Ça fait immensement mal quand nous voyons ce qui se passe en RDC. Et on se pose deux fois la question, qu'est-ce qui ne va pas dans la tête des êtres humains? Mais c'est parce qu'on a affaire à des gens qui ont oublié le vrai sens de la vie des enfants. Ils ont oublié. Parce que pour eux, ils se disent que des enfants doivent être des esclaves. Mais en réalité, non. Des enfants, il faut les protéger. Il faut les protéger car c'est très très important. Mais tellement nous vivons dans un monde matérialiste, dans un monde où les gens sont devenus plus méchants à cause des choses de la terre. Oui, il y a des gens qui sont prêts pour les choses de la terre, de causer beaucoup de retard dans la vie des gens. Il y a des gens pour le matériel de cette terre, font tout pour que les gens soient à leurs genoux et que les gens soient leurs esclaves, faire ce qu'eux ne peuvent pas faire, et eux pendant ce temps, ils vont jouir de la vie et faire ce qu'ils veulent faire, et les autres sont là en train de s'occuper de leur famille, faire des choses comme si eux c'était des esclaves. Mais la vie c'est pas comme ça. Dieu n'aime pas ça. Et Dieu est un Dieu de justice, car Dieu observe tout. Il observe tout. Tout ce que l'être humain peut faire dans le noir ou dans la lumière, Dieu il voit. Mais le jour quand Dieu frappera, c'est ce jour-là que les gens ne comprendront pas. Parce que la mort, comme j'ai toujours dit, la mort c'est une vraie justice. Riche et pauvre passera dans un trou carré. Riche et pauvre. Et il y a des gens qui ont peur qu'on les enterre. Ils préfèrent qu'on les brûle. Oui, on les brûle, mais en enfer ça va être encore pire. Voilà. Donc, c'est ça. Nous allons continuer à suivre la vidéo.
An army of children are at the heart of the mining production. Wearing no shoes and in the most wretched conditions, Dorsan is ordered to retrieve the sack he's forgotten. The rains make this dangerous work even more risky, and Dorsan's told in no uncertain terms he risks a beating if he messes up again. Dorsan, with Richard beside him, have worked all day. Even this punishing work doesn't guarantee enough for food. Dorsan hasn't eaten for 2 days now. This is what helpless looks like, and he's one of the children making millions for multinational corporations in America and China whilst they suffer in squalor. For this, they'll get maybe 8 British pence a day.
Walitusukuma tunaenda tena tunarudia, nashikia sana mkongo inauma.
The tunnels are dug by hand with no supports. They frequently collapse, especially during rain. Most precious of minerals is often extracted and sorted by tiny hands. They don't wear gloves or masks, yet the World Health Organization says exposure to cobalt and breathing in its dust fumes can cause long-term health problems. We visited 5 different mines across the south of DRC and found all used child workers. Monica's the youngest worker in this group at just 4. But even those barely able to walk have lost their childhoods to mining. Natalie's 12 years old. My fingers hurt, she tells us.
There's no support bars, they have no protective masks or protective equipment at all. And right at the bottom, I can see water.
After a lifetime of drinking it, he has a huge tumour on his throat.
Quand on est en train de travailler à Kitowe, là où on cultive les tomates, en train de cultiver, si j'ai soif, je pars, j'ai de l'eau.
C'est les infections, mingi ni mama infection, ndio tunaona huko. Kwa sababu mama tumika material sana, tunataka mtoto na infection shubungula, nyingine kuna ma buton, ndio tunaona kwa makozi na kutoka limba nenda material.
Most of these child miners will never own a smartphone. They barely survive from day to day. And many other children like Dorsan will be back again tomorrow, digging out one of the most sought-after minerals of our time for a pittance. Alex Crawford, Sky News in the DRC.
Ah oui, ça fait beaucoup mal. Donc des enfants qui travaillent comme des esclaves en RDC. On va continuer à suivre, ça fait trop mal au cœur.
This is one of the thousands of unregulated, unmonitored mines in the DRC. It's crawling with children, working like modern-day slaves. A 12-hour-long day of punishing work may earn them the equivalent of £1. Although one of the poorest countries on earth, DRC is rich in minerals. But a history of brutal colonial exploitation looks like being repeated now, in 2017. Much of it's mined by hand, with rudimentary tools in harsh, potentially hazardous conditions. And wretched whether or not, the rush is on for a mineral the DRC has in great abundance, cobalt, and it's fast becoming more precious than gold. It's a critical ingredient in lithium-ion batteries which power smartphones and laptops. An army of children are at the heart of the mining production. Wearing no shoes and in the most wretched conditions, Dorsan is ordered to retrieve the sack he's forgotten. There's an urgency now. The rains make this dangerous work even more risky, and Dorsan's told in no uncertain terms he risks a beating if he messes up again. Dorsan, with Richard beside him, have worked all day. They're 8 and 11 years old. Even this punishing work doesn't guarantee enough for food. Dorsan hasn't eaten for 2 days now. This is what helpless looks like, and he's one of the children making millions for multinational corporations in America and China whilst they suffer in squalor. For this, they'll get maybe 8 British pence a day. The tunnels are dug by hand with no supports. They frequently collapse, especially during rain. The miners climb down using holes carved in the rock and no safety equipment. This most precious of minerals is often extracted and sorted by tiny hands. They don't wear gloves or masks, yet the World Health Organization says exposure to cobalt and breathing in its dust fumes can cause long-term health problems. We visited 5 different mines across the south of DRC and found all used child workers. Monica's the youngest worker in this group at just 4. But even those barely able to walk have lost their childhoods to mining. Natalie's 12 years old. My fingers hurt, she tells us. Miles away on a different site, Makumba Mateba shows us the cobalt tunnel he's dug with 3 of his friends. It's physically tough work. They removed all this rock by hand over nearly 4 months.
It's incredibly insecure for them. Although this is really rich in minerals and it's going down just 15 meters, there's no support bars, they have no protective masks or protective equipment at all. And right at the bottom, I can see water.
It's his village's water which Makumba's convinced has caused his health problems. After a lifetime of drinking it, he has a huge tumour on his throat. There are countless reports of other health problems from those living nearby and working on the mines. These twins are just 2 days old, and although small, so far they're healthy, to the relief of their mother. But even if they stay healthy, the twins face a lifetime of hard labour as soon as they can walk. The children's cobalt is sold cheaply to mostly Chinese traders who we film secretly. They don't ask questions about where their cobalt comes from or who's worked to extract it. They just want the best price. Even those who aren't Chinese, this trading market has Indian owners, told us they sell onto the dominant Chinese exporter of cobalt, CDM. The cobalt first mined here is then sold again to the Chinese parent company, which then supplies some of the world's biggest battery makers. And those batteries, with ingredients which originated in DRC, end up in, for instance, smartphones. It's an intricate supply chain which allows easy deniability for the multinationals making huge profits. An investigation last year by Amnesty found similar human rights abuses. Nothing appears to have changed. Most of these child miners will never own a smartphone. They barely survive from day to day. And many other children like Dorsan will be back again tomorrow, digging out one of the most sought-after minerals of our time for a pittance. Alex Crawford, Sky News in the DRC.
Voilà. Donc, dans le reportage, ils ont su même dire tout à l'heure, ça fait 2 jours, ce petit de 8 ans, qui travaille comme un malade. Il n'a rien mis dans sa bouche. Il travaille comme un malade dans les mines, mais il ne mange pas. Ça fait mal. Ça fait mal, hein? Ça fait très très mal. Ah, vraiment.
Le pays Congo n'avait pas le mot démocratie.
On va suivre. Excusez-moi.
50% de la production mondiale de cobalt, le Congo dépend.
Amnesty International accuse Apple, Samsung et Sony de ne pas vérifier si les minerais utilisés dans leurs téléphones proviennent du travail des enfants dans les mines. Le rapport sur le mine de cobalt en RDC révèle que les enfants, même âgés de 7 ans, travaillent plusieurs heures dans des mines dangereuses sans équipement de protection. Le cobalt est un composant important de batteries lithium déportables. Ces jeunes enfants de 7 ans travaillent juste pour 1 ou 2 dollars la journée. De la RDC provient au moins 50% de la production mondiale de cobalt. Les jeunes mineurs risquent à long terme des problèmes de santé et sont constamment exposés à des risques d'accidents selon Amnesty. Encore selon le rapport d'Amnesty, de septembre 2014 à décembre 2015, 80 mineurs sont morts dans les tunnels souterrains des mines. UNICEF estime qu'il y a approximativement 40 000 enfants qui travaillent dans le sud de la RDC. La réponse de Apple à ce rapport est qu'ils ne tolèrent jamais le travail des enfants dans leur chaîne de production et sont fiers d'être avant-gardistes dans les mesures contre le travail des enfants. Plusieurs personnes en Europe et en Amérique achètent des smartphones sans savoir qu'ils sont liés au travail des enfants. Aussi longtemps que les multinationales auront le pouvoir d'acheter des politiciens et faire ce qu'ils veulent dans les pays défavorisés, il n'y aura aucun changement. Le pur capitalisme sauvage ne se soucie pas des enfants qui meurent dans les mines au Congo. Pour eux, ce ne sont que les profits qui comptent. Les multinationales achètent les gouvernements en Occident et ces gouvernements occidentaux supportent un gouvernement corrompu en RDC et ainsi ils continuent tranquillement à faire travailler des enfants comme des esclaves. Voici quelques commentaires sur cet article. Ironiquement, le peuple congolais seront considérés comme inférieurs juste parce qu'ils sont africains, malgré que c'est eux qui rendent vos smartphones moins chers. Je souhaite seulement que le pays Congo n'avait pas le mot démocratie dans son nom. Je souhaiterais avoir un travail quand j'étais un enfant. J'étais très pauvre pour acheter mes jeux vidéo. 50% de la production mondiale de cobalt, le Congo devrait être un pays très riche. Bon, au moins ils ont un travail. Au lieu d'être des enfants soldats, ils peuvent travailler pour les marchés libres mondiaux. Les multinationales ne forcent pas ces enfants à travailler dans les mines. Ils achètent juste les minerais. Si acheter les rend responsables, donc nous sommes tous responsables. Le problème est que le mode de vie américain est parasite. Il n'y a pas de remède à cela. Le monde est injuste et c'est cela le problème. Même prendre une douche en Occident a des répercussions néfastes dans le tiers-monde. N'oubliez pas de vous abonner à notre chaîne YouTube Diaspora Black News et visiter notre site diasporablacknews.com.
Voilà. Donc vous voyez l'exploitation des enfants, ils aiment bien dans les mines de cobalt. Oui, ils adorent. Ils adorent. Et les enfants travaillent comme des dingues, des malades, dans les plantations de mines de cacao, de mines. Ça fait mal. Ça fait mal. Ah, vraiment. Donc, c'est à cause de la méchanceté. La méchanceté des gens qui veulent tout avoir. Oui, il y a des gens sur terre, ils veulent tout avoir. Et il y a des gens, ils traitent des autres qu'ils sont venus sur terre pour rien. Non. Est-ce que eux, ce sont des dieux? Non, ce n'est pas des dieux. C'est des êtres humains comme tout le monde. Mais ils aiment en profiter sur les autres. Et moi, je dis non. Dans la vie, c'est pas comme ça. Dieu n'a pas dit ça. Donc, ça fait mal.
child labor being used to mine cobalt in the Democratic Republic of Congo in Africa. That mineral is essential for the batteries in our electronic devices. We brought you the story of one young miner whose only dream was to go to school. This morning, we have an update on his dream. Deborah Pata is in Johannesburg, South Africa. Deborah, good morning.
Good morning. In the weeks following our investigation, we didn't hear from any of the companies about changes to their supply chain, but we did hear from concerned viewers who wanted to help. And for one little boy, that was life-changing.
We first met Ziki Swazi here, at a mine in the blistering heat. There he is, with a Christmas sweater on. Hard to miss at just 11 years old. He's one of an estimated 40,000 children in the DRC getting paid a pittance to produce the cobalt that powers our electronics. Every evening, Ziki, an orphan, returns home with $1 or $2 to provide for his siblings and grandmother. I feel very bad because I can see my friends going to school, Ziki told us, and I am struggling.
When you go to sleep at night, before you go to sleep, that moment before you fall asleep, what do you think about?
My son. School, he told us, his only dream. Well, sometimes dreams do come true. Now Ziki wears a uniform with a shiny new backpack. He's getting ready for school for the very first time. Around 50 CBS This Morning viewers were so moved by Ziki's plight, they connected with Sister Catherine Mutindi, who through the Good Shepherd Project has saved over 1,000 children from the mines. Enough money was raised to send not only Ziki, but his 3 siblings, Ruth, Emerson and Sumitri, to school. I would see the other kids going to school and I would look at them, Ziki said. But today I feel the happiness they feel, and I'm now like them. There were some first day nerves. He held back tears outside the classroom, but Sister Catherine was there to help. It wasn't long before Ziki bravely stood up and introduced himself to his new classmates and joined the soccer team. The spotlight on Ziki has changed the lives of at least these children, and thanks to Ziki, maybe more. If I become a government minister, he said, I would ask all the children who work in the mines to go to school so that they could become like me. His new dream, to help other child miners.
Ziki is such a remarkable boy that on the second day of school, just yesterday, he arrived hours early, took off his shirt and cleaned the classroom before the staff arrived. The Good Shepherd now wants to raise funds to send another 500 children just like Ziki to school. John?
Deborah Pata in South Africa. Wow, and 50 Good Shepherds in our audience.
There's a lot of Zikis like that in South Africa, and when you go there, it is a children's dream. They just want to go to school and have a uniform to do that. This is such an important story to tell. Oh, we're glad he's doing okay.
Yeah. Thank you, Deborah. And thanks to all, people who watch that story and do something.
Yes.
You know what I mean? You can make a change.
Said they had to act. I get it.
Thank goodness they did.
Voilà. L'enfant est travaillé comme un esclave dingue, hein, dans les champs des mines. Et il y a des journalistes qui ont des bons cœurs, qui vont dans des coins en RDC, quand ils voient des enfants, elles sont choquées ou ils sont choqués. Et dans leur reportage, ça choque immensement. Et après, elles prennent contact avec des écoles pour pouvoir ramasser certains enfants dans des mines. Parce que la place de l'enfant, c'est pas dans les plantations de mines, c'est l'école. L'école. Mais qu'est-ce qui se passe? Les dictateurs, la majorité ne veulent pas que les enfants aillent à l'école. Ils veulent voir ces enfants-là dans des plantations, hein, dans des plantations, des mines. Oui. Ils veulent voir ces enfants en train de trimer, de travailler difficilement. Mais la place d'un enfant, 6 ans, 7 ans, 8 ans, hein? 9 ans, 10 ans, 11 ans, 12 ans, 13 ans, 14 ans, 15 ans, 16 ans, 17 ans. Mais l'école, mais eux, ils privent cela. Pourquoi? plus on va priver à pas mal de générations de ne pas aller à l'école, de travailler dans les plantations des minerais. Mais c'est casser, bousiller ces enfants-là, afin que ces enfants-là puissent vite mourir. Parce que, qui dit plus de jeunesse, plus d'enfants, hein, on dit, il n'y aura plus de générations futures. Et c'est ce qui se passe. Le monde va mal. On va continuer à suivre cette vidéo-là sur des enfants. Ça fait mal.
Exposes the connection between child labor in Africa and products many of us use every day. Amnesty International revealed in 2016 that children were mining cobalt in the Democratic Republic of Congo, or DRC. 2 years later, little has changed. Companies like Apple, Samsung, Microsoft, and Tesla depend on the element for their products. It's found in batteries used to power phones, computers, and electric cars. Deborah Pata went to the DRC to investigate the situation. She has the latest from Johannesburg, South Africa.
They're digging in trenches and laboring in lakes, hunting for treasure in a playground from hell. Hard enough for an adult man, unthinkable for a child. And yet tens of thousands of Congolese kids are involved in every stage of mining for cobalt. More than half the world's supply comes from the DRC. 20% of that is mined by hand. We traveled along collapsing dirt roads. Children are everywhere, digging for cobalt in abandoned open pit mines. And it's clear security officials in charge here, only some of them in uniform, have something to hide.
There's such sensitivity around cobalt mine that every few hundred feet we get stopped requesting letters, documents, even though we have official permission to be here.
But for the Chinese middlemen we saw who buy the cobalt, there are no such constraints. They have free access to the mines. Inside, women and children are doing so-called artisanal mining. But don't be fooled. This is no quaint cottage industry. At barely 10 years old, children lug heavy sacks of cobalt to be washed in rivers. From as early as 4, they can pick it out of a pile, and even those too young to work spend much of the day breathing in toxic fumes.
The officials deny that there's child labor. Clearly it's obvious that there is, but whenever a camera or a security person or a policeman appears, then the children are chased away.
Ziki Swazi is 11 years old and agreed to meet us outside the mine.
Why aren't you in school?
My parents are dead, he said, and I stay with my grandma.
So you need to make money for your granny?
Yes.
We asked these companies whether child-mined cobalt is being used in their products. All acknowledge problems with the supply chain, but say they require their suppliers to follow responsible sourcing guidelines. Apple said it leads the industry in supply chain standards and last year cut ties with the largest artisanal cobalt supplier. Microsoft told us it does not tolerate child labor and that they are working with NGOs to eliminate it. Samsung said it's mapping its supply chain, and Tesla explained it performs audits and has very little cobalt in its batteries. But our investigation shows just how complicated it is to trace child-mined cobalt in the global supply chain. We followed the mineral as it left the mines, piled high on every mode of transport available. Sacks were already mixed up without labels, making it impossible to know who had mined them.
The children's cobalt is brought here to this market, where it is bought by a Chinese company for extremely low prices.
We wanted to see whether there was any attempt to check if the cobalt had been mined by children. So our team went back later with a hidden camera. When we offered to sell a truckload of cobalt, nobody asked us who mined the mineral, only what the quality was. This man told us that the Chinese traders here bought all the cobalt and sold it mainly to one Chinese company, Congo Dongfang Mining, known locally as CDM. CDM is owned by global Chinese giant Huayu, But Huayu said they stopped buying from that market last year and have put in place a detailed program to eliminate child labor from their supply chain. And yet, in this murky process of sourcing cobalt, one thing is clear: children are still here, carrying the weight of our high-tech world on their shoulders.
We spoke to 8 major tech companies who've been linked to the supply chain, and while some of them have joined initiatives to solve this problem, we saw very little evidence at the mines we visited of anyone actually helping these children. PACT, an NGO working with Apple, Microsoft and Huayu, described support from these multinationals as a drop in the ocean compared to the dozens of companies still buying child-mined cobalt. Deborah Patter, CBS News, Johannesburg, South Africa.
Bobby Ghosh is a foreign affairs columnist and commentator, and he joins me now on set. Welcome to you, Bobby.
Thank you.
This is so profoundly disturbing and shameful. Let's start with some baseline knowledge here of cobalt. How critically important is cobalt for these technology companies?
So lithium batteries now are everywhere, right? They're in our cars, they're in our phones, they're in our laptops. There are 2 or 3 different kinds of lithium battery. The one kind has about 50% cobalt. So it kind of varies from battery to battery, but it's a very, very important component. It's very hard to think of lithium batteries, although there are some scientists who are trying, without any cobalt at all.
So these technologies would not exist without it?
No, a couple of years, well, maybe 15 years ago, cobalt was worth nothing. There were cobalt mines in Idaho, in Canada, that shut down because nobody wanted it. Now with all our new tech batteries, now cobalt is a very big deal, $80,000 a ton.
So there are reports that Apple is looking to buy cobalt directly from mining companies instead of the middleman like you saw in Deborah Patta's piece there. How would that affect the supply chain?
Well, that would be a good thing, because if you have a middleman, and particularly if the middleman is a Chinese company, as we've seen there, who are claiming that there are no child labor, whereas the reporting is clear that there are. If you're dealing directly, then you're eliminating the middleman. You have a greater control over who is producing the cobalt and how it's being brought there, the environmentally sustainable ways, and avoiding child labor. You're paying a fair price. The prices listed on that factory were ridiculous. So that helps a lot. It would also help if the actual refining of this material will move more and more to the places where they're being produced. Right now, Congo, like a lot of countries, is exporting most of this raw material, and the refining and where the real value addition is done outside. The government of Congo would like people to come and do that refining in the Congo. That would probably be a good thing.
What about Tesla? They're reportedly building a gigafactory in the U.S. that will source all its materials from North America. Yeah. How realistic is that pledge?
Well, we'll find out. The place they're looking for, ironically, is called cobalt. It's called cobalt. It's in Ontario, in Canada. There used to be a silver mine there, and there are deposits of cobalt there. I'm not sure how much. The fact that Tesla thinks it can get enough cobalt from there to produce its battery is a good sign. It will mean that the cobalt will be much more expensive because it will be mined in Canada, but we can be sure that there will be mined under strict environmental controls. There will not be child labor. It won't change the fact that there is child labor in DRC, though, because there are lots of buyers around the world, Chinese buyers, who won't care. So we may feel better about ourselves, but those kids are going to keep working those mines and enduring those conditions unless a larger effort is made to save them from that.
And when you look at possible demand increasing, electric cars are expected to double the world's demand for cobalt by the year 2025, and that increased demand would likely drive the already high price of that metal even higher. So how would that affect life for these children in the DRC?
Well, if people begin to mine cobalt in other places, they're looking in Sweden as well, in Sweden, Canada, and other places, then the demand from the DRC may come down, and that, again, may make us feel less guilty about our cell phones. But those kids, then, the little money they're making, even that will shrink, and they'll be making even less money because they need to earn a living. We heard from the young man there, he needs the money for the upkeep of his family, to look out for his grandma. That's not going to go away unless the world gets involved and imposes sort of standards at the mines themselves. It's not a question of where else can you buy cobalt to to salve your guilty conscience. It's a question of trying to see if the community, if the world community can impose some controls, some standards, some regulations at the mine heads themselves.
All right, Bobby Ghosh, thanks very much for your perspective. Really appreciate it, Bobby.
Donc, vous avez vu. Donc, bonsoir pour ceux qui viennent d'arriver dans ce direct. Donc, moi, quand je fais ce direct, c'est pour montrer la souffrance des enfants. Les enfants ne méritent pas d'être dans des plantations de mines. Les enfants méritent d'être à l'école. Mais nous vivons dans un monde égoïsme, un monde où les hommes sont devenus méchants, un monde où nous sommes dirigés par des malades, des psychopathes. Car pour eux, il faut que l'être humain travaille comme un malade. Mais l'être humain ne doit pas travailler comme ça. Et surtout des enfants. Des enfants, c'est un crime contre l'humanité. Hein? Déjà les femmes, qui sont le moteur de la vie, on ne les respecte pas, on les viole. Les enfants, on ne les respecte pas. Parce qu'il y a des viols sur des enfants en RDC. Congo, il y a des viols. Hein? Et quand je fais pas mal des choses sur la RDC, il y a des gens qui vont dans les pages de YouTube où je mets des vidéos pour que des millions de gens voient dans le monde. Et il y a des gens qui viennent m'injurier en disant oui, toi tu es né en RDC. Hein? Mais ça, ce sont des gens de Sassou. Hein? Et il n'y a pas de photos, il n'y a rien, il n'y a pas de nom. Des gens qui viennent m'injurier. Mais quand je vois ça, je rigole. Parce qu'un être humain, quand il naît quelque part, il est né quelque part, il ne peut pas naître ailleurs. Hein? C'est malheureux. Donc pour eux, vu moi je parle de la RDC, je pointe ce qui se passe sur les enfants qu'on exploite, les femmes qu'on viole. Les gens ne sont pas contents. Et les gens, ils viennent m'injurier. Ils passent que leur temps à m'injurier. Mais moi, je m'en fous. Ça rentre là et ça sort là. Hein? Ça rentre ici et ça sort. Donc, nous devons nous préoccuper de la situation des enfants en RDC. Et des enfants dans le monde. Parce que à plusieurs reprises avant, j'ai fait des vidéos où j'ai parlé un peu de tout. J'ai montré des enfants qui travaillent en Inde, en Chine, qui fabriquent des chaussures Nike. J'ai fait voir cela. Et des enfants qui travaillent dans des plantations de cacao. Cacao est égal au chocolat chaud et chocolat à croquer. Voilà. Ça fait mal. L'homme est méchant. Donc nous allons continuer à suivre des enfants qui travaillent dans des secteurs de mines en RDC. Que Dieu aide ces enfants-là vraiment. Que Dieu nous donne la force de pouvoir en parler et en parler jusqu'à ce que ça va être fini cette histoire.
Yesterday, we reported how the mineral is often unearthed in the Democratic Republic of Congo, or DRC. Many top companies that make electronics need cobalt to power their products.
CBS News spoke with some of the companies that use cobalt lithium-ion batteries. All acknowledge problems with the supply chain, but say they require suppliers to follow responsible sourcing guidelines. Apple is an industry leader in the fight for responsible sourcing, but it says walking away from the DRC would do nothing to improve conditions for the people or the environment. Deborah Pata followed one young boy home from a mine to understand the challenges he faces as the family's main provider.
Ziki Swazi has never been to school. He has no idea how to read or write, but he is an expert in washing cobalt. He is one of an estimated 40,000 children in the DRC getting paid a pittance to produce cobalt. Every evening, this 11-year-old returns home with $1 or $2 to provide for his family. I have to go and work there, he told us, because my grandma has a bad leg and she can't.
So you make the money for the family?
There is no one to look after her, he said. I am the one who helps. It's a common story in the DRC. Kids need to work to survive. I feel very bad because I can see my friends going to school, Ziki told us, and I'm struggling.
This really is what children should be doing. Every child here has been rescued from a mine and put in a school receiving a decent education.
At the Good Shepherd Project, Sister Catherine Mutindi and her colleagues have rescued over 1,000 children from the mines. The kids who manage to get here are given a hot meal and a break from reality.
And how bad are the conditions in the mines?
It's horrible. And they know that it is very dangerous. So we have over 100 orphans, total orphans in this school. And they have lost the parents in the mines. Some of the children, when they came here, they have gone through accidents, they have broken limbs. And so they know the dangers.
This safe haven is funded by international charities, including USAID and, most recently, by a global cobalt supplier, Congo Dongfang Mining. Their last reported earnings are over $100 million. After child mine cobalt was exposed in their supply chain, CDM donated $71,000 to this project and say they've implemented responsible sourcing guidelines. Children here are taking classes, but also learning how to be kids again.
Very difficult, and that is where we begin actually with the children. You know, helping them to begin to think about tomorrow. They say tomorrow because they think of today.
But tomorrow for Ziki has to wait.
When you go to sleep at night, before you go to sleep, that moment before you fall asleep, what do you think about?
My son.
School, he answers simply, just a dream for this child.
CBS News correspondent Deborah Pata is in Johannesburg, South Africa. So, Deborah, what were the children like that you met?
I think the most overwhelming thing was that the children we met who were mining and were working every single day had really, and it's a cliche, but they'd lost their childhood. To hear a child of 11 talk about having to go to work every day, about when he gets home, all he wants to do is take a bath and sleep, is the most distressing thing. I have children the same age of the young boy we spoke to, 11 years old. She's in school. They are not in school. And that's the most devastating thing, that these children, all they dream about is going to school. And our children complain about it. This is their dream, their only dream.
Deborah, you know, a lot of people will wonder why are children being used for something like this, but just give us a sense of the economics surrounding these children and their families, what their parents, those relatives that depend on the meager earnings that they receive for doing this terrible work.
Yeah, that's a very good question, because it's not as if the children are always forced into this labor by, sort of slave drivers in the area. Sometimes it's a family that puts pressure on them, is that they simply can't take a child old enough to work in a mine out of the family pool of earning money for them all to live. So firstly, you find a situation where the family can't afford to send the child to school. Even though the schooling fees are at a minimum, they can't afford that minimum. So they need that child to go and work in the mine to contribute at most $1 or $2 a day. It's nothing, but that is what they need to live on. And as soon as the child is able, they all go and work in the mine. So often the biggest resistance is actually from the parents. They don't want to send the children to school because this is the only way they can earn extra money. So really what you need in that area is for government and NGOs to step in and try and revive the economy and find other means of employment and things for the parents to do, not just the mining, that gives them enough money to send these children to school. Secondly, it's an education process, educating parents to understand that if the children get an education, this is their way out. But all people are focused on is today. I need food today. I need to work today. My children need to work today because we have to survive. Nobody is thinking beyond that about the future, least of all the fact that that cobalt ends up in all our smartphones, laptops, and electronic cars.
What are conditions like that the kids are working in?
The conditions are shocking. I mean, you have a situation where this is hand mining, where they are mining by hand. There are dangerous pits that they go down. People die very often in collapsed mountains. To call them a mine is probably even the wrong term, because these are abandoned mines. There's no regulation. Please bear in mind that actually hand mining in the DRC is legal. The use of children is not legal, and officials make a great show sometimes of, shooing the children away, but they're back within a few seconds, and essentially everyone really turns a blind eye to it because it's what keeps the economy going there. But these conditions are dangerous, they are grueling, it's back-breaking work. Certainly, even for adults, this is difficult. Imagine for a child, it's unthinkable.
It really is, Deborah, and we've talked about the economics surrounding the children and their families and perhaps some of the reasons that they choose to send their children to work in these mines. What would be the impact on the cobalt industry, on the technology that most Westerners and in fact the rest of the world uses if children were not used for this labor or if they were paid a living wage?
The interesting thing is that people are saying that there would be very little impact if children were not there because there would be adults to step into the breach. In fact, the most surprising thing was to find laborers from other countries, from Zimbabwe, from Zambia, who actually came to the DRC, who preferred coming and working in these horrific conditions to their own country. So there is a huge demand for people wanting to work in that unregulated sphere. So there probably would be a minimal impact. Increasing the cost of selling the cobalt, that would probably have more of an impact. It would increase the economics surrounding it and so on. But in actual fact, probably very little impact. What people argue, though, is that there is a greater impact on the people living in the area. That if they weren't allowed to do this hand mining, if children weren't involved, that people would literally starve. And that is where the solution needs to be found. There needs to be a viable way to take these children out, put them in school, give them hot meals, and make sure they're getting an education and not working in mines. This is no place for a child.
That is so true, Deborah Pata. Great reporting. Thank you very much.
Voilà.
So many of these companies have responded, and you can see full statements from some of the companies who have been connected to the supply chain on CBSNews.com, along with more video from this investigation.
Voilà. Donc, il y a des Occidentaux qui sont bons. Quand je dis Occidentaux 666, je m'adresse au député Véreux. Je m'adresse au président Véreux. Mais il y a des gens qui ont le bon sens. Hein? Il y a des gens qui en parlent. Et tous parents devront en parler. L'affaire du Congo RDC ne concerne pas juste que Georges Passy, le tiers africain. Mais tout le monde devrait en parler. Mais il y a des gens, qu'est-ce qu'ils font? Ils passent leur temps à faire des directs et à parler des scènes de théâtre. Et il y a un monde fou qui vont là-bas pour regarder. Et ça se met à écrire, à rigoler. Non, c'est triste. Pendant ce temps, il y a des enfants qui travaillent pour que vous ayez ce téléphone que vous utilisez pour faire vos directs. C'est triste. C'est triste. Ayez un peu quand même un sens humaniste. Soyez quand même humain. Même si vous avez des cœurs en cailloux, soyez quand même humain. Hein? Regardez-moi le temps quand je passe à faire des directs. Hein? Je suis obligé de faire encore, pendant que je fais le direct, de partager mes vidéos. Pourquoi? Parce qu'il y a des gens qui sont là sur Facebook, soi-disant des amis, mais ce n'est pas des amis. C'est des enfoirés de merde. Ce n'est pas des amis. Parce que les messages importants de ce genre, les gens devraient partager. Mais est-ce que les gens partagent? Hein? Ils sont là juste à regarder. Et après ils passent. La honte. Et après ils disent que c'est des pana-africanistes. Non, vous n'êtes pas pana-africanisme. Un pana-africanisme, c'est celui qui lève tout sujet. Et moi je parle de tous les sujets. Est-ce que vous parlez de tous les sujets? Hein? Moi je suis du Congo-Brazza, mais des fois je fais des vidéos, je parle du Gabon. Hein? Je parle du Gabon, et pourtant je ne suis pas né au Gabon. Des fois je parle du Cameroun, et pourtant je ne suis pas né au Cameroun.